This hour of the Alan Autry Show is sponsored by Sinlaw, the most realistic artificial grass in the Central Valley.
From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office, and now behind the mic at KXEX, this is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty! We are free.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
And welcome to Alan Autry No Retreat. It is Manic Monday, or if you take a look around the world, probably more appropriate description would be Mayhem Monday. All around this globe, stuff just coming apart. Looks like it's absolute chaos. But as believers, we know what looks like chaos is actually, even though hard to understand at the time, God's perfect plan falling in place. And when I look at all this stuff going on, I'm reminded of Mother Teresa because she deserved to be there in heaven. She's there now. I don't know. I thank God for grace and forgiveness because I'm going to get to heaven because I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. And out of my old sinner self, I've been forgiven my sins. I'll be there. But Mother Teresa said something that really hit home to me one time because, you know, you revere her, Mother Teresa. And she's got to have answers to everything, right? She's got God's cell number. If you need an answer, she's closer to God than I am. And she'd be the first one to tell you, no, not. But I heard her on a talk show say one time, I actually think it was the old Johnny Carson show. And God, I miss that show. Gosh, I miss Johnny Carson. Just made you feel good. You could exhale at night. Now you got all these stand-up comics. It's just all politics and stuff. Anyway. He had Mother Teresa on there, and he asked Mother Teresa about going to heaven. And she took a moment. She says, yes, I go to heaven. Bad Mother Teresa imitation, by the way, but she talks somewhat like that. She said, I go to heaven. The first thing I'm going to do is say, God, you have a lot of explaining to do. And I'm I think we all are, even the staunchest believer, is left scratching our collective heads going, wow, you know, what good is going to come out of this? But that's where faith comes in. If we knew the answer to everything, then we wouldn't need faith. And this is where we got to dig down deep as believers and know God knows best, better than we do, and there's a plan and a purpose to all this stuff. And as Romans 8:28 said, all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Now, key to that is those who love God and are called according to his purpose. It's going to work out fine for us that are saved and claim Jesus as our Lord and Savior. But anyway, just on that, hey, before we get to the noted stuff, because it may not seem like it, some shows, but I do some show prep each night. I take some notes. I do a little thinking about the next day's show and have some topics I want to talk about. But I want to start with a couple of notes, some of the things I didn't have in my notes, rather. And the one is a big shout out to our local Fresno State football team, Fresno State Bulldogs. You talk about a place to go, forget your problems, forget the problems of the world, and just cheer on a team that just really gives it everything they have, not just game in and game out, but almost every play. I've seen the Bulldogs play a lot of years, and I've not seen a team that had this much, what word am I looking for? Well, I'll quit trying to find a fancy term. Grit. They just got old-fashioned grit. The close games, how do you measure grit in a team? Are they able to come back and win games, come back from adversity, not drop their heads, not, droop, body language goes all down when they're behind? No, not this team. Yeah, they could be ahead by 20, down by 20, and you don't see any of that. And I know a lot of credit goes to Coach Jeff Tedford, but he recruited some kids that just really know how to win, but to do that, you got to know how to compete. And you just never take a play off. And it doesn't matter if it's 10 seconds to go and you're down by 20 and you got the last play. You give that last play everything you have. And that's missing in sports. I mean, you watch an NBA game. I did the other night. My goodness, what a waste of time. You go out and watch the grass grow rather than watch an early season, regular season NBA game. These guys didn't start playing until the halfway through the fourth quarter. Then they played. But before that, it was like they were playing a pickup game down at the Clovis North Gym. I mean, it was just horrible. In fact, it's got so bad, the effort and these teams holding out their best players for the playoffs, that they've instituted a in-season tournament. One of them is going on right now, where the winning coach gets $500,000, and each player on the winning team gets $1 million or whatever. My goodness, you've got to incentivize multi-millionaires just to work hard at their craft, to just play basketball to your abilities. You've got to incentivize already very wealthy people just to go out there and compete. And I know if I was commissioner, if I was the head of this organization, well, what I do, I'd just have a team meeting with the owners saying, look, we're going to start fining. You got to play your players. Play your payers. You're already paying your players. But you shouldn't incentivize people to do what they're supposed to do to begin with. So anyway, those were not on my notes. And, also some breaking news here out of Texas. Oh, we knew this was going to happen, right? A Jordanian national has been arrested by Texas authorities under suspicion of planning a terrorist attack to do what? All together now, kill Jews. This comes on the heels of Kamala Harris warning us all that the number one focus in terms of terrorism here in America and the target of that terrorism should be Muslim people, not Jewish people. I don't know what planet she's on. I don't know what October 7th she saw, maybe through her prism. She saw a bunch of Boy Scouts coming over, or Girl Scouts delivering cookies to the Jewish settlers. I don't know what she saw, but she obviously didn't see 1,400 slaughtered Jews and 3,000 bloodthirsty Hamas militants crossing over, wiping out anything that could walk and things that could talk or not talk, like little bitty babies. So you look at this administration and you say, my goodness, I know that you think we're dumb. We all get that. Even your ardent supporters have picked that out. The way you try to explain space, or you explain the Ukraine-Russia war by saying, you see, there was a big country that attacked a smaller country, and the big country was a bad country for doing that, because the little country can't fight the big country, so the little country needs help to fight the big country. Let me tell you, I'm not exaggerating much how she delivered that. You all know that. You heard her. And your supporter, she was talking to you as well, the Democratic Party, and all of y'all that voted Biden and Harris in. But you're left thinking, there's got to be somebody in their ear saying something like this that they'll listen to. Vice President Harris, President Biden, we agree with you. The citizens of America are imbeciles. They're dumb. They'll believe just about anything, even that inflation is good, that it's all right to pay 3 times for a loaf of bread. We can get them to to believe that. They're dumb. That it costs triple what it used to fill up their tank. Gas and food, the things that you actually need and your budget really can't handle when they get out of control, the two big things along with your electric power bill. And they'll accept that. But there's a limit, Vice President Harris. We've got to know when even the dumbest people on the planet, and let me expand that, in the entire universe, there's certain things you can't say to people and expect their idiocy and their stupidity to save the day. And anybody who would say right now that Muslims are more at risk of being the object of hate crimes in America or around the world, this should expose them to even ardent support. And I think it has, because there's now a more renewed outcry to have Biden, step out. They realize he is not, day by day, not an option. The Jewish people and even the free-thinking Democrats have realized you're saying this right now. You come out as the newly appointed czar for this terrorism. I mean, you did such a great job on the border, I guess, Kamala Harris, even though you never visited it, that Joe Biden's going to put you in charge of this issue to comfort people and to assure the people that are being attacked that we're going to protect them. Not one mention of the Jewish people that are afraid to come out of their house. Vice President Harris, have you looked around the world at those thousands and thousands and thousands in pretty much every country around the world, chanting, screaming, veins bulging out of their necks, spit flying out of their mouth, eyes bulging out, calling for the complete wipeout of an entire race and faith of people from the river to the sea? Chanting, you know what that means? That means wipe out a race, genocide. That's Hitler, Nazism stuff. And you get up and you say the biggest threat is a backlash towards Muslims when the Western values really don't adhere to that. You're in a region. We're watching a region, folks. I get it. It's still eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth land over there in the Middle East. Forgiveness and grace really doesn't have a big hole there. There's Christian churches that are popped up here and there, and they're doing the best they can. But this attempt by this administration, and I'm going to tell you why I think they're going that way. Number one, they think we're stupid. They could say anything because so far the Democrats have bought it. And people have bought in inner cities that, these parents that their kids are trapped in failing schools, and it's the Democratic Party that won't allow school choice. There's still some that are saying, well, that's my friend. They won't let my kid get away from this failing school, that he takes his life in his hands when he walks to school, and when he gets there, he doesn't learn anything. Probably to get beat up because they can't expel the bully. And the Democrats are supporting all of that. Those folks will wise up sooner, but still now there's enough of them, as hard as it is to believe, that still believe and hold on to every single word that comes out of Joe Biden's mouth and Kamala Harris for one simple reason, because they're a Democrat. They're a Democrat. And that's why George Washington warned us about political parties. I'm an independent. I'm not here as an apologist for, or as an advocate of the Republican Party, Democratic Party. I want good, solid Americans. Really? Well, you're racist this because you're against Planned Parenthood. Let me tell you something. If I had a choice to live in a community, a city that was 95% white, but didn't believe in God, okay? And then the other choice I had is move to a city that's 100% black. I would be the only white guy going there. If that was a God-fearing community and those people believed in God, believed in Jesus, you know where I'm going to be looking for a home. And that I'll be the first white person to ask to move into there. It's where these folks are missing the boat. It's not the color of the skin. And I can speak for most folks that are conservative. I consider my conservative guy. I'm just not going to, as George Washington said and warned us, to be part of a political party. Why? Because he said you can become so drunk with your loyalty to that party that you put that party over the interest of your country as a whole. And you can actually, because you find a home, and if you don't have God, that's why I think it was Ben Franklin that said this thing called freedom will only work on a moral people. If you don't have the true God to worship, you're going to find something in life to worship. Money, power, a political party, and like a religion, you're willing to die for it. You're willing to destroy an entire country. Let us see it go down to ashes if you think it doesn't fit with your secular morality. And your secular morality is Marxism, which means you can't allow a God. Why? Because God is put above the government, and you need to worship the government. But if there's one good thing for us as a country, and I think what's good for us as a country is good for the world. We're not perfect. But you look at the Chinese system and American system, that's the main rival of who's going to dominate the world. Who's the dominant power out there? I think anybody who values freedom, who values human rights, will say hands down the United States of America. For us to recapture that position of leadership, because we've lost it. We've completely lost it. It started with Barack Obama, and we're actually living through the third term of Barack Obama. And we may get to that later in this program, and I'll tell you why. I'll give you some empirical evidence. I'm ready to go back anytime, Jeremy. Excuse me. It's my old man cough. Ready to go? Yep. Joe Biden's just record. I mean, I'm just asking, what's he done? Again, I promise you, I'm going to keep an open mind. I still to this day keep an open mind. I'd like to know what he's done. I think Laura Fisher emailed me a couple of things he'd done. We'll go over that. I'm truly open. I just don't see much of anything that he's done, that he's touched, that's turned out good. Quite the opposite. Obama's description of Joe Biden, who Obama purportedly has said never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to F up things. Man, I think he's set a new record in such a quick time. I've never seen somebody cause such devastation to a country and therefore the world in so short of a period of time than this man. But it shows you when you give power like this to somebody, how quickly they can destroy things, how much damage they can do. I think it was Ronald Reagan, he may have got it from somebody else, but said that, we're only one generation from losing our freedom. And I'm starting to get that now. You think, well, we're so strong over the century. We built up the armor, the financial armor, the military armor, the moral armor, that we can withstand bad leadership. And that may be true to a certain extent. But if you get a leader that really either consciously or subconsciously is seeking to undermine the very institutions of our country and institute an all-powerful big government entity, whether you call it Marxism, dictatorship, whatever, they can cause incalculable damage. that could take decades, if ever, to recover from. But before we get to that, just a little more breaking news here. Told you about the Jordanian national in Texas that was arrested with allegedly a plot to kill Jews. He overstayed his visa. The reason that's important is, yeah, the border needs to be secured. I guarantee you, and you know, there's some not good folks come across that border. Some good folks, but some not so good folks, and some horrible folks. It doesn't take but one to do something really, really bad. Okay? It took one, Timothy McVeigh, to park a truck in front of the Oklahoma City federal courthouse and kill innocent people. But he overstayed this visa, so it means he got through the system. He purported to be, and came across, as a nice guy. Why? He couldn't get a visa. They ask you a lot of questions. Haven't you ever seen 90 Day Fiancé? Trying to get the K-1 visas here? I'm hooked on that show. I swear I never watch it, but my wife watches it. But all the hoops they got to jump through just to, come in this country to get married. So you'd think, you come here for whatever business reason, they're going to give you some scrutiny. He made it through. And if these charges are correct, you got to go, wow, and there's a precedent for this. I believe out of the 11, Jeremy, you may know this, but the correct number, but I think over half of the plotters of 9/11 were people that got through here on visas. They were legally here, had jobs, most of them out of Florida. So that's another area where we got to tighten up as a country. Not just secure the border, from goodness gracious, we got to secure this visa system that we have and make sure we really know who these people are. Not make it impervious to get to the United States. But as Trump said, you build the wall, then you have a nice door. But you know what? You don't come slamming through the door. You got to knock. We got to say, who's there? And before we let you in, we're going to ask you a few questions before we open that door. And then if you do that when somebody knocks on the door. Yeah, who is it? It's John. John who? Oh, John the neighbor. John the neighbor? Oh, John with the dog? Yeah, John with the dog with the German Shepherd dog? No, I got the Westie. No, you're not John next door. I'm not opening the door. I mean, it's stuff as simple as that. The equivalent of that. Well, Alan, it won't be that simple. Yes, it is. I was able to make it in acting because I simplified it. I didn't get all this mojo jojo up in my head about the method and this and that and yada yada. Cher said it the best. Going there working really good at pushing the pretend button. Just ask the questions. Take the time. There's no rush to let people in here. You don't want to drag your heels so you can never get through in here. But I think that's something that's being lost in this conversation politically in securing the border. Because securing the border, I do believe, extends beyond coming through the Rio Grande and all of that. We have borders of our laws that you can't cross unless you have the proper information and we know who you are. Okay. Also, before we get into how much time we got, Jeremy? Got about 21 minutes? Okay. News from the courtroom. I'm looking up. Oh, folks online, if you see me looking up here, looking up there above, I'm looking at the two monitors. I used to look this way, sideways, because the monitors used to be over there. I'd look over and catch up for breaking news that I might want to bring you. So I'm not getting a case of the wandering eyes. So from time to time, you'll see me. Just saw a Muslim immigrant running to unseat Ilhan Omar. Whoa. I want to follow up on that story. But the other one on CNN, of course, their top story is Trump returns to the stand in New York civil fraud trial. Apparently, Trump was, they said, combative on the stand. Who was surprised about that? Raise your hand out there in radio land across social media. What genius out there said, I think Trump is going to be a puppy dog in front of that judge. He's just going to go there and be docile, stick his tail between his legs, answer the questions, and be a nice guy. Well, no, it's not the case. And the judge is coming at him He put a gag order, fined him $5,000, I guess. You want to kick him out of New York so he can never, work there, but I'm going to fine you $5,000. Trump kept speaking out because it is political. Today, the judge admonished Trump's attorney, quote, this is an actual quote, "Control your client. This is not a political rally." Oh, really? You're the leader of the political rally that came in. You, big financial record expert, that put a valuation of $18 million on property that's worth well over $100 million in Florida. But you, in the face of all of the experts saying you're blowing smoke out of your rear end, Judge, you stood by your $18 million. Why? Because you had to have that ridiculous number or even less to charge him of inflating your values on your property. And it's purely political. This judge has contributed to Democratic campaigns. He may not have come out and said what Letitia James said, elect me and I'm going to go after Trump. But it's obvious, because you took the case, that that's what you're a part of. You're part of a political rally, part of a political strategy to get this guy do as much damage as you can. If not, put him in jail where you think he may not be able to run for president. At least wear him down to where he's an equivalent of, in terms of energy, of a Joe Biden. You want to age him. He's 77. Believe me, that's the strategy, folks. I mean, it's not paranoia if they're really after you. I'm not saying something that should shock anybody. Of course that's what they're doing. They, meaning the Democratic machine, that's so afraid of not just Trump coming in office, but losing the Senate, losing the Congress, which I think would allow this country, speaking from an independent standpoint, a chance to bring common sense, clarity, and sanity back to our country, secure the border, start working on inflation, get out of a war you simply can't win in Ukraine, cut your losses. Yes, stay an ally of Ukraine with Zelensky, but accept the inevitable and focus on the Middle East and do your best to get this thing settled, a peaceful solution to it. Because you've got a situation with Israel, and we'll talk about that in a moment, that you're going to have to handle them differently. And I don't think any other country would act any differently than Israel if it had happened to them what happened to Israel. I firmly believe that. I don't think any country on earth has that kind of restraint. They'll come in, kill 1,400 of our innocent people, then we'll basically ceasefire in 24 hours when we come after you. I don't even know if think Switzerland would do that. I don't. It defies human nature. And the expectations shouldn't be that they do that. Minimize civilian casualties, you bet. But you ever notice that when something bad, really bad happens to your side, it's a war crime? But when something really, really bad happens to the other side you're fighting, it's collateral damage. Same thing, except it's not the same thing because it happened to you. That's what we're going on. And you're in a region of the country which is a tit-for-tat reason, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth countries, nations. Okay. So let's look at Biden. We got 15 minutes here. Let's first start off with this notion that sort of Biden was a nice guy. I know he's old, and you'd like older people to mature and become, a wise old man, not a crusty old, mean old man. You got two choices. I'm dealing with that. I just want to be a gentle old man as I get older. I hope I don't turn into that crusty old man. And there's hardly usually any in between on that. But this whole notion that Biden was somehow above the fray, the political fray, that he was a diplomat. He was, a grandpa-like figure that you went to for wisdom, who was actually, even though a member of a political party, could be impartial. He could do the right thing for America and willing to have the courage to do that, regardless if it cost him a little political capital. I'm sorry, the evidence does not bear that out with Joe Biden. Quite the contrary. Evidence of Biden, since he took office as a young man over 50 years ago, is a man who will do whatever it takes to stay in power. You can look at the crime bill when crime was ravaging the country. He got on board, was co-author of the crime bill that sent a lot of young black kids to prison for a long, long time. Now, the intention was good because it had gotten out of control, like it is today. And it kind of went too far in some instances. But I think it's something they had to do. And it was a bill not written perfectly, just like 3 strikes, but it had to happen. You had to get your arms around crime. But he was out leading the way. Why? Because the polls said it was popular. If you notice the Joe Biden of today, after the George Floyd incident, it's not cool to be for public safety. And you just jumped on the defund the police bandwagon. Now, you minced words and danced around it a little bit, but people advising you were not that smart. They didn't give you the words or the talent that Barack Obama had to get out of a situation, to be able to call the Cambridge police stupid, like Barack Obama did, and then have a beer with them out on the lawn, on South Lawn. He knew what that optic would do. My bad, go have a beer with them. And law enforcement, I don't think you act stupidly. He didn't have those skills to do that. I never bought that with Obama. I was just two-faced. But you can go back even further. Well, he's a friend of black people. I had asked you to go YouTube the Clarence Thomas hearings when Clarence Thomas was being confirmed, going through the confirmation process to be a Supreme Court justice. First black. Well, no, I think he wasn't the first black, but first conservative, obviously. To conservative thinking to be on the bench, and watch how Joe Biden tears into him, not just with difficult questions. That's all right. Clarence Thomas was ready for that, but insulting questions about his sincerity and playing the word games with Thomas about whether he really was a credit to his race. You got to read between the lines, but it's clearly what he's saying. You can go on and on and on with the things that Joe Biden did back in the day that, to me, if not a bad person, at least did not qualify him to be the angel that he was made out to be during the election. That this second coming of FDR, who he had his other side to him as well. But let's go through the Clarence Thomas hearing, the duplicitous behavior on the crime bill. But then you come to COVID with knowing full well that those masks didn't do anything. He saw the real science, the real data. But he not only made everybody mask up and walk around looking like Hannibal Lecter, which caused stress in the world, he was the biggest supporter of locking down schools. We now are paying a horrendous price in the schools for that. Everyone, even the most ardent supporters of the lockdown, have come out and said, our bad, we blew it. Even the CDC has said it caused way more damage than they thought. We knew what it was. Us who had kids and grandkids, we saw the stress and anxiety working on them every single day. But he supported that. So does that make him a nice guy? Keeping kids home from school? And I'm going to simplify it down to that because there was enough data that among kids it wasn't spreading. And when if it did spread, it wasn't deadly. And you're part of spreading that lie. And you were a puppet for the teachers union who said, we'll go back. The schools will open when we say they open. And Biden said, okay. He put the politics over the kids, which brings up a trend, a pattern with this man of picking politics over the right thing to do. Not having the courage to tell your speechwriter that the speechwriter told you, don't say, Mr. President, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. It's too much. It's too politically volatile. You're here in Berlin. Don't say that. Play the politics. Gorbachev's not going to like it. We got some good things going here. Don't say that. Well, we all know what was said. It changed the world. Because Reagan had the courage to put what was best for America and the world and the people in Berlin and Germany over politics when he said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. That's why it's in our opening of this show. But he bowed to the teachers union. He kept up. We'll get into the foreign stuff in a bit, but I want to stay here at home. He's a complete advocate of open borders. He's even said the more brown America comes. Now, stay with me on here. The more brown America becomes, the better. Now, here's a guy, I don't care what color America turns, but I'm not going to say if it takes more white, that's better, more brown, that's better, more black, that's better. That's a color, that's pigment that you're saying will be better. That's why Martin Luther King said, don't judge somebody by the color of their skin. It means nothing. That color of the skin could hide a very evil heart, whether it be white, black, brown, or whatever. You don't judge a person by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. And he is on record, you can YouTube it, saying it would be better if you had a different color race dominating, a different color of a skin. I'm getting a little worked up here, but he said this. He said this. And I hate to say this, that's not a nice guy. Because what you're saying, you take a white baby, black baby, brown baby, and you're saying babies would be better if their skin was more this color. I mean, and you're the one that got on the Queen Elizabeth and people at the court who wondered just musingly, I wonder what color of the skin that Prince Harry and his wife, the child, will be. You're on that like a starving dog in a meat house. Yet you made the color of his skin. Why? Because you were at an event that was mostly Hispanic, and you put politics over what was good for society. You weren't bringing, it does not bring people together. It divides people. It divided them then, and it divides them now. And you have this open border. Come one, come all. 8 million people, we don't know who they are. Let me tell you, folks, don't buy what Mayorkas says. And don't say this. They don't know what they're doing. They're crazy. They know exactly what they're doing. They believe, I believe wrongly, I think a lot of these folks will come in, many of them get jobs, start businesses, and a lot of these woke policies won't make sense to them either. Okay? But they think the more people they can let in when they get them the right to vote, which they're working on, they will think, oh, the Democratic Party is the one that let me in. The Democratic Party of Joe Biden, there'll be some to think that way. But what a purely political, horrific reason to let people get raped on the way to the border, sexually abused, human trafficked, murdered. They come here and just let them go. And, you know, the cartel works on this side of the border too, folks. A lot of those folks are going to come in. They got the phone number to call. And next thing you do, they're going to be mules running drugs in your community. Many of them will. Not all of them, but many of them will. Will it be the one that sells drugs to your kid? Will it be the one that sells fentanyl to your kid and your kid doesn't wake up to go to junior high the next day? These are questions you have to ask ourselves, and one apparently Joe Biden has not asked himself. But I'm starting to think, and I'm getting goosebumps right now. I swear to you. I think he does know, and he doesn't care. He's putting politics. He thinks, I want to brown up the country. That's good, the color of somebody's skin. And I want more Democrats because our policies don't hold up. We need more puppets. We know we need more people we can control. He loves the system that Xi Jinping has, the combo capitalism with forced labor. He's not a union guy. They'd make unions go away tomorrow if they didn't come to the ballot box. You know how you do that? Marxism. You get rid of the union. There's no unions in Marxism if you haven't found out. China, the reason they can make cheap products that underbid every other country is that they got a workforce that's not unionized. They work for what China says you work for. And we're just butt deep in a partnership with them. But you can look at that, the out-of-control border, the dangerous inflation that just attacks all of our family budgets. Sitting up there, sending Kamala Harris and the Treasury Secretary and himself saying inflation is good. We have this high inflation is eating budgets up. Okay, then you look at the war, 2 wars, the war in Europe we should never be in. 120 billion now and counting with no definition of victory. For as long as it takes, this country, $33 trillion in debt, has promised Ukraine, who is not a NATO member, unwavering American support in dollars for as long as it takes. And by the way, I don't really care if you're spending for health care for your politicians and all this other stuff. We're nation building in Ukraine, not just fighting a war. That's why they're getting their butts kicked by Russia. This thing's going to be in a negotiated solution pretty soon. And this, as long as it takes, is not going to be around. Now you're embroiled in a war in the Middle East. And you know where all this started? I hate folks. I mean, you're going to probably lose some viewers on this. This started in your administration, President Biden, when Barack Obama bowed to the Saudi prince. The sign of bowing means I lower myself in front of you. That's not the country that 9/11, all those hijackers came from Saudi Arabia. Shake hands, fist bumps, whatever. Don't bow. Because you know what that means in the Middle East? Weak. He started weak, and you, Joe Biden, has taken weakness to the new extreme. Weaker and weaker and weaker United States equals safer and safer world in your mind and in Kamala Harris's mind. So you got 2 wars that this president has got us involved in. Then you have the humiliating surrender in Afghanistan. I mean, it sent another message to the rest of the world. Do I think it was part of the reason Hamas invaded? You bet. You think they're waiting on Trump? Do you think what Hamas supporters going, let's wait and translate, we'd stand a better chance of wiping out Israel if Trump, well, wait a minute. Trump's the one that moved the capital, to our embassy, rather, to Jerusalem. An unwavering support, and he does what he says he's going to do. Of course it mattered. A weak, old president who is totally, completely political, that's gotten to a point where he doesn't know what end is up or down, that's been a political animal his whole life, and who has never led anything. Folks, some people are just not cut out to be the top dog. He's never has been. He doesn't know how to handle that. He's still turning to his staff like he did as a senator to tell me what to do. You can't do that as a president. He's done that. And it's Obama's team, Susan Rice. You never hear anything about it. Her, Barack Obama and Susan Rice, this is the 3rd term of their presidency. He's got it. He once said the ideal thing would be in a basement controlling things. That's where he'd rather be. Worked out just like he wanted. He can run from the things that don't work out, take credit for those that he does, that does work out. I mean, and you promote social hate. You get up there and alienate half the country, basically call them racist and terrorists. How does that bring anybody together? That's not a good guy. Now, the one good thing I heard is he lowered drug prices. Way to go. That's okay. And that's great. Thank you for lowering drug prices. But ask yourself this question. All the things that I just mentioned, I only got halfway through the list. If you could send me another list, you want to talk the infrastructure bill? That's great for America. Do you have a job waiting for you in the infrastructure bill? Can you drive heavy equipment? Are you part of a nonprofit that's going to get billions of dollars? Probably not. Money's not going to see you. But we're going to, I want to be fair, email me a list of all of his accomplishments. I'd be happy to read them on air here. Folks, we hear that theme. It's time to go. Appreciate you so much. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you. God bless America. And just remember, do your best and let God do the rest. And it's going to turn out the way it's supposed to. God bless and love you all. Bye-bye now.
Happy trails to